Welcome to the Rockstar Principles Podcast, coming straight to you from Rock and Roll, USA, covering the latest and greatest in educational leadership trends, news, and awesomeness for principals all over the world. Now, here are your hosts, the boss, Jon Ross, and the Doctor of Proctors, Nick Indeglio.
All right, everybody, here we go. Jon Ross here.
Nick Indeglio with Jon Ross.
Welcome to the first Rockstar Principles podcast. We're coming to you live and recorded from the basement of the Ross home here in Pennsylvania.
We need some kind of name for the studio at some point.
We'll take suggestions maybe from our followers as we start to pick people up in the Twitterverse. If you have some ideas, what would be the good name for a Rockstar Principal basement, the recording studio. Maybe we could get some help from the Bruce Dickinson at some point. Slight Saturday Night Live reference there. But we are here talking to you tonight. We're going to try and do these podcasts fairly regularly and just give you an idea of the life of the principal in education in 2013, what it's like to experience the thrills and chills of working in public education in the United States of America. So, I am principal. Nick and I are both principals. We're principals in the Downingtown Area School District, which is in Chester County, Southeastern Pennsylvania. We happen to both be middle school principals as well. I am principal of Lionville Middle School, which serves half of the Downingtown Area School District. And Nick, while you are down there at the other half of the district in the fabulous Downingtown Middle School.
That's right, feeding the west side of the district. And we should mention right off the bat that this podcast is in no way affiliated with the Downingtown School District. The opinions expressed are solely our own and have nothing to do and will never have anything to do with representing the opinions of Downingtown Area School District, unless we win any awards or, big pots of money, and then I'm sure they'll want to piggyback.
In which case, we'd be happy to share it with them. Are we going to have to say that at every podcast, or does that just cover us? We'll probably have to say that every time.
We'll have to say it every time, because we're going to most likely offend large numbers of people.
Well, we're going to do our best to try to avoid doing that. But Nick and I have been principals. We've each been principal for a number of years. Prior to coming to Downingtown, I've been in Downingtown now for 3 years as the principal. And prior to coming to Downingtown, I was in a neighboring school district where I actually started my education career. Spent 18 years in that district. And out of those 18 years, I spent 10 years as a middle school principal. So got to meet Dr. Indeglio, the now Dr. Indeglio, a few years back when I came to Downingtown. And we spent a lot of time together since we're the only two middle schools in the district. Our district really appreciates us trying to be on the same page, as I'm sure any district would when you have two middle schools. So over the past couple of years, Nick and I have had a lot of conversations about doing this sort of thing, and we're finally sitting down to do it, Nick, aren't we?
Saturday night, now that we have kids and families, I guess we're not...
That's right. What better way to spend your Saturday night than to be recording a podcast in your basement?
Nothing like it. My background is similar to John's in the pursuing the administration route, but I've actually bounced around quite a bit more. John had the wonderful foresight, I guess, to stay in his district for a long period of time. I've been around the block a little bit, everywhere from State College to Perk Valley to Upper Marion. Started my administrative career in Council Rock as an assistant principal, and moved over to Downingtown, and we just kind of both plopped in at the same time, and things worked out there. So it's been a great partnership. It's been a lot of fun, and that brings us to why we're doing this. We've talked about it for a long time, and there's no TV shows that really encapsulate what we do. We always said it really would be a cool reality show if it was a real reality show. They did that.
They tried one.
Showing principals from different places, but that was more comedy than anything. And while our jobs definitely have a lot of humor in them, I think there's a lot more to it that we don't get to talk about. So we sat down and we said, what if we just had a show that was for the principals, by the principals?
There you go. Exactly. I agree 100%. The thing that really motivates me to do something like this is Principal Skinner. I got to be quite honest. As much as I love The Simpsons, Principal Skinner is a fine example of the bad rap that principals get in our country. If you think about it, try to think I think we talked about this the other day, of any kind of television show or movie where principals have ever been shown in a good light. And outside of Morgan Freeman, obviously, as Joe Clark and Stand By Me. And there was that Jim Belushi in The Principal. We're starting to date ourselves now, but those were both, excellent movies, and no slight on those two fine actors by any stretch of the imagination. But, principals are always portrayed as the bad guy. At least it seems that way to me. And I think if you look at the research and if you look at success stories of any schools across the country, I think you'll find one thing in common, and that's an outstanding principal. So that's really going to be our motivation behind doing this. We really want to try and highlight some of the outstanding work that's being done by principals. And I think we're probably going to have to start small, Nick. I don't see us getting anybody on that. I don't think Arnie Duncan's going to be lining up to sit in on any of our early sessions.
You don't think we're following him on Twitter?
Yeah, well, maybe we can get a shout out from him at some point. But we're going to start locally. Yeah, I think we'll start locally from some folks in the Pennsylvania region. So it might not be names you're familiar with, but they are names that we're familiar with and people that we know in our area that have either influenced us or even one hopefully we're fortunate to work with. And we'll get a chance to just hear and pick their brain and hear from them about what it takes to be an outstanding principal.
You were just talking about Principal Skinner, Morgan Freeman, Jim Belushi, three names you might never have expected to hear in the same sentence together.
Excellent point.
But you know what? One thing they all have in common, which the first time I've ever even thought about this, is violence or a propensity for violence. All three of those shows and movies have quite a bit of aggression that takes place. And I don't know if that's, is that really in the public eye? Do they look at us as, the bad boys of education?
I think if you look back on the role of the principal, it certainly has changed to some extent. Principals, I think even when we were in school, it was not uncommon for principals to have to get physical when it came to discipline. And, well, thank goodness those days are long gone because, no one would want to do that ever in 2013. We wouldn't want to have that happening at all.
It's like the revolting blob in Billy Madison.
Okay, now you're really stretching it. Now you're really stretching things. But I guess that'll give you an idea of what we're all about and what we're trying to do. And hopefully, we can make it entertaining. We're going to talk about some serious issues, I know. Hopefully share a little bit of knowledge, try and give you some ideas of places to get some knowledge. But anyone who knows Nick and I knows that we're not always the most serious of folks. If you take a close look on our Twitter page at our picture on our background, might give you an idea of just what kind of people we are when it comes to not taking yourself too seriously. I think things begin and end with that, for me at least, in trying not to take myself too seriously in my role.
I completely agree 100%. I mean, it's you think about what you need to get through each day, and I think the sense of humor definitely plays in and is probably the most important thing. Another great reason I think the two of us work well together is that in a lot of ways we do things the same and similar. We keep that consistency in the district, but on the same token, we're very different in our approaches, and kind of like right. The Odd Couple. We don't argue nearly as much as Oscar and Felix
Except we're
did.
both incredibly handsome.
Well, yeah,
outside of that point,
that goes without saying.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
okay,
yes. And fit, toned, and
right,
yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
Shining examples of the male physique
and nutrition, as your wife just baked a pan of brownies upstairs.
More about my wife's brownies later.
Yes, we'll be talking about that.
We'll probably be eating and talking about them at the same time.
Which is, par for the course. That's what we should be doing.
Yeah, we'll have different food every week, maybe. We could have something different made every week. That would be nice.
But the differences notwithstanding, I mean, you love Batman, I love Superman. It doesn't get any more polar opposite than that.
This is true.
The best way I can sum up, where our love of education comes from is a school board meeting last year, where John and I were both sitting in the front row of the school board meeting, as was requested by our superintendent, Dr. Musseline, and we both had our iPads out. And at one point during the meeting, I looked over, and John was reading an article about education. Maybe it was, I'm not sure if it was Education Weekly or an ASCD article.
I believe it was ASCD.
Yeah, really good research that was up on the screen you were reading. And I had my comic book app open, reading the latest Justice League article.
Yes. And that was one of many occasions where we got uncontrollable giggles at school board meetings that have drawn the ire, I know, of several other people in the room. So we want to cut that out a little bit, probably.
Yeah. Well, and then I think I looked over at you and said, "I guess that's why you're making adequate yearly progress and I'm not." Well, that being said, I think we've nailed down this opening segment here, and I think it's time to go to our first commercial break. Of course, we should probably point out that we don't really have sponsors. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with sponsors we wish followed us on Twitter, and we wish listened to our podcast, and we wish sponsored us, and we're going to make up fake commercials.
It's basically a shameless plug
Pretty
that
much.
we're going for here, in the hopes that maybe if we mention these people and one day when we become nationally renowned podcasters, cyber administrators, that people will recognize that they knew us when we were no one. So, who's going to be our first commercial break this time, Nick?
Well, you got to look at the chart here, and we've got the switchboard's lighting up. But I do believe that Todd Whitaker and some of his books are our first commercial podcast. So we'll be back after the break. And we didn't talk about this, but are we going to have like a sign out to commercial? You know how like on Mike and Mike they have Mike and Mike on ESPN.
Right.
Do we have something like that, you think, or what are we going to do?
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking your suggestions.
At RCKSTR Principal, that's our Twitter handle. Tweet us.
And now a word from our fake sponsors. But we'd really love if they were our real sponsors. Seriously, we would love it.
Hey, John. I've got a couple boneheads on staff, and now I have to send an email to everyone just because of these few people. I sure wish there was a better way.
Well, Nick, fortunately for you, I happen to be a Whitakerian.
A Whitakerian? What is that?
I follow Todd Whitaker, the nationally renowned speaker, author, educator, principal extraordinaire Todd Whitaker. One of his many books, his most recent, Shifting the Monkey, The Art of Protecting Good People from Liars, Criers, and Other Slackers. Here's a copy. I suggest you give it a read. Maybe it'll help you out in dealing with some of these issues. Some of the monkeys that are getting put on your back could really use to be a little shift.
Wow, this looks like a great book. And I guess I have heard of Todd Whitaker before. Aren't you a member of the Church of Whitaker?
Yes, as I said earlier, I'm a Whitakerian.
I'll check it out.
We got a little behind-the-scenes VIP section of our podcast. We have a very, very special guest, the beautiful and talented Mrs. Jonathan Ross. My wife, Julie, is going to be sitting in with Nick and talking about what it's like to be married to a principal. And I, while Nick is doing that, am going to actually go upstairs and have our 7-year-old daughter get ready for bed. So kind of fulfill maybe the one time a week that I actually pull my weight as a father and go up and do that. But I think this is a very, very important topic to talk about because as anyone who's a principal and is married knows that your success goes hand in hand. Your success at school goes hand in hand with your success at home. And if you're going to do well, you certainly need some sort of support on the home front, whether it's through the person that you're married to, your family as a whole, your friends, whatever it may be. And Julie has certainly been the brains of this outfit for several years. And I'm saying all this because she's sitting right here next to me. But I would say it nonetheless. But Nick's going to talk to Julie about what it's like being married to a principal. So, honey, it's please, don't say anything too embarrassing about me because this is going to be saved in posterity for all time. So I'll be right back.
All right, and as John is exiting the studio, we've just made a major upgrade here. So we now have the better of the two Rosses. And Julie, before we get started, I just want to harken back to we had you guys over for dinner, I guess about a year ago, it was before you moved. And at one point, I remember you and Denise were kind of standing in the kitchen talking and just kind of going over what it's like, what the lifestyle's like, and being on the other side of the principalship. And it was just interesting to kind of listen in a little bit and hear things from a perspective I've never heard before. Mm-hmm. So I guess by starting, let's ask first, what are the challenges of being married to a long-time building principal? John's been doing this a number of years. You've been there the entire time. What's it like?
Well, I would say that the biggest challenge is after having kids. I wouldn't say it was so much of a challenge before we were having kids as John became an assistant principal and then a principal. I think if we didn't have children, it wouldn't be as big of a challenge, but it's the time factor is the biggest thing. All the nighttime meetings, all the, going in early and coming home late and staying through when you have a meeting and such. There's just not enough time in the day to get everything done that we need to get done. with having 3 kids and having to be in 3 different places, sometimes it's hard sometimes.
And the one of the things you and Denise have in common along with that is both of our families made I think it's a difficult decision, but I never think it's the wrong decision to have one of us stay home, basically. Yes. And in both cases, that's been you and that's been Denise. What is it like when you think about the families that have the husband and wife working, let's say, well, for sake of argument, I mean, it could work either way. It doesn't really matter which, is it the male principal, the female, the principal? It doesn't make a difference. But how do they manage when they're looking at a situation with 3 kids as well, let's say? Like, can you even imagine what that...
I just said this. I can't imagine if I was working a full-time job, too, with our 3 children, because there's so many things, activities that they're involved in now, sports and after-school projects and things that they need to be at, that there's no way that I could, just leave a job, just like John couldn't leave his job to go, shuttle them around or whatnot. There always seems to have to be someone available, and that just wouldn't be the case if I was working full time. So I really don't know. I guess people have to sacrifice a lot. Maybe their kids can't do as many activities or, whatnot. Maybe they have other family or friends who do the runs for them, but we don't have that here that, we would rely on. That's just too much with 3 kids. Yeah,
and I guess that's another good point is, location.
Right.
Do you have extended family who can, take the minivan and
exactly
do soccer and
sure.
7,000 other things that are going on?
That's right.
Let's move into the really tough questions. And, it's easy to be superficial and keep it on the surface, but let's get right down to it, because I've wondered. Do you ever get jealous or resentful of the teachers or the students who take up so much of John's time?
No, I actually don't think I've ever felt that way. I just look at it as it's his job and he has to be there, and that's what he does. He's kind of a jack of all trades, has to do a lot of different things. I don't think I'd ever been jealous of the teachers or the students in particular. There's times when I wish he was here just to help, but I've never directed it at any one particular person because I know that's just part of the job.
You ever directed at him?
Yeah, probably. I would say there's been times where I've been frustrated and maybe didn't come right out and say what I was frustrated about. But there's just, with our kids growing older and having more activities that take a little time to get to because of where we live, it's very stressful because I feel like I have to be in sometimes 3 different places at once with the 3 kids, and I just can't make it work all the time. So somebody has to give something up to make it work. And so, I might be a little frustrated that when he comes in and, he doesn't want to talk about work or something, and I want to talk about what was so crazy about the day, and he probably is ready to go to bed at that point. So there's some frustration sometimes, yeah, but I think that's probably common with everybody nowadays, especially when there's 2 people working.
How about the flip side to that question? Do you think John is ever resentful that so much of his time and energy during the day goes to the teachers and to the kids and to the staff, and it's taking away from his kids and his wife and his life?
I think there's probably days or weeks where he feels that way, only because there's probably times, I know there's times where he has maybe 2 or 3 night meetings in a row during a week. So there will be weeks where maybe he doesn't see the kids for 2 days in a row, and it just builds on weeks like that. So I think times like that, he may feel a little resentful of not being able to be there with the kids or see them. I wouldn't call it so much resentful as just maybe just wishing that, he had an hour or something to see the kids at night.
You mentioned during your last answer there about you wanting to talk about things and he maybe not wanting to talk about things after a long day. How much do you like to know about what happens at school? Sometimes you get the funny stories, but what's your, he comes home at night, what do you want to know?
Well, if there's a day where he comes home and I can tell it was a bad day, I just want to know what happened. Because I can't tell the difference between someone just making him mad and something severe happening, because it's just one face. It's just one reaction. So, I can't tell if it's a minor problem or a major problem. And so I want to talk about it. Whereas he probably wants to spend, if it's a night that maybe he was late at work, he might want to spend the last half hour of his day on a cell phone or on his computer or, just relaxing. And I want to know what happened.
Now, for those of you listening, John did just come back from putting the kids to bed. He talked about pulling his weight, and that took less than 5 minutes. So I don't wonder how difficult of a task that really was.
Very good observation, Nick.
Julie, you just mentioned the one face, which is it doesn't matter if there was a death at school or there was a very minor traffic incident at school that occurred. You get the same face.
Yes.
Is that something? Has it always been that way? Has that always been Jon's personality, or have you seen almost like an exterior shell build over the years?
Yeah, definitely. More so moving into the principal job than assistant principal or teacher. I would say that. And I think he just doesn't want to relive the whole episode again with me, and especially when I don't know, all the players or all the back history or any of that. And of course, he can't always talk about situations privacy related and such. So I think he just kind of has that shell and wants to move on, whereas I can tell something's wrong and maybe, try to chip away at it a little bit.
I certainly hope some of my teachers are listening to this, because that is something that I have heard among teachers currently on my staff and teachers I've worked with in the past, that I just have one face, whether I'm angry about something minor that happened or it could be the worst thing in the world. And that's something I'm working on, something that I know as a district, our administrators are going through some leadership training. And one of the things that I'm trying to improve upon.
Well, we appreciate it. It was like a moment of emotion that came out there.
You want a tissue?
We're really.
No, I'm good.
Man, we're digging down now.
When, by the way, is the beautiful Mrs. Indeglio going to be on a podcast,
yes.
Dr. Nick? Because I don't want this to be all about me. This isn't the
John
Ross podcast.
I think the question's going to be how many people listen to our podcast and how many guests can we get? But it's good. Talia, my 4-year-old, will be a guest maybe by the time he's playing out there.
I think that's an outstanding idea. Could have all of our kids on once. That would be nice.
Be highly entertaining.
Yeah.
We should definitely do that. In the last year or so, we've John and I have been working on a study together, or at least planning a big study together. My doctoral dissertation was on threats to longevity in the principalship, specifically for middle-level building principals in Chester, Montgomery counties, Pennsylvania. And we examined from the principal's perspective, we surveyed them directly asking, what are the things that would get you out of the principalship? What are the things that are going to affect you to the point where you can't remain anymore? Whether that's moving up to a role in central office, whether it's the stress that just can't be coped with, whether it's burnout. So through that study, and we're looking to expand that across Pennsylvania. We're hoping PAESSP lets us do that at some point. But I think it'd be really interesting to hear from the spouse's perspective. What do you see being those threats to longevity? What are the things that you think would challenge Jon from being able to finish his career as a principal? What do you see?
Just from Jon himself, I would say if he could choose to, he would stay a middle school principal. That seems to be what his goal seems to be, and I don't see anything right now in the immediate future that would change that. If he were perhaps to move up into central office, I guess that's one thing. But as far as like specific threats, there's days when I see where he may appear to be, burnout or worn out from that particular day. But I don't think I've seen that over a course of time where I would see that as a trend. So to me, that's just my, what I see day to day. I don't know. I think he really enjoys his job, and he specifically enjoys his current job at Downingtown or Lionville, excuse me. And I think for now, I would say I don't see anything right in the near future. He seems to appreciate the parents and the students and his staff, so I don't see anything. Now, if you asked me about his last job, I might have had a few things to say.
Oh, we're going to change the subject on that note now. We're not going to drag up any stories, at least not yet. Let's wait until we become big, Nick, and we're nationally renowned, and then maybe I can
self-sufficient.
I can bring out all of the people who have wronged me over the course of my career.
Last question for you, Julie, and this is going out there. Hopefully, you can provide some insight and some help for all the Rockstar principals that are listening. You and Jon have been married how long now?
20 years.
All right, and Jon's been a principal for how long?
Still one.
Yeah, since 2001.
So at least, ballpark in 13 years.
12, 13 years.
For you, as the spouse of a principal, what advice would you give to the husband or wife of someone who is just getting into the field of educational leadership? What advice would you have for them?
Well, I would say be prepared, because you're going to be, especially if you have children, you're going to be on your own a lot of evenings, and they leave, at least my husband leaves very early in the morning too. So if you are responsible for the morning things with your kids, that would also, sometimes you're going to feel like you're on your own, and that's just kind of how it is. It kind of comes along with the job. I would say, just try to be supportive, and maybe, I don't know if it'd be interesting to know if a woman principal does the same thing, but you'd be prepared that they may not want to talk about everything that goes on at school. Maybe a woman would.
You're not saying that men are quiet when it comes to talking about things, are you? You're not making a generalization, are you?
I certainly am. This is my part of the podcast. Zip it.
That's right. Like I said when you walked upstairs, I said we've upgraded.
I would just also say, if, I guess it depends too, if you're a full-time working person, married to a principal, it would probably be a lot more difficult when it comes to children, and just the being everywhere at once. And I think it, probably worth it to talk to each other about that a lot. I try to tell him when I'm frustrated. I think sometimes I don't, but, I think just talking it through and being supportive, and that's about it.
All right. Well, on behalf of the Rockstar Principals podcast, we'd like to thank Julie Ross for being here with us tonight. And I'm sure that...
Is she getting a parting gift? Are we having parting gifts for our guests yet?
Actually, Julie made the parting gifts. She made the brownies.
Oh, that's
so,
right.
Once again,
outstanding, by the way.
Another sacrifice that the wife of a principal has made.
Those brownies.
They're good brownies, too, man.
Thank you.
What are well, we can't say the name, but the other thing we really like, the brownies that have other things in them.
Oh, yes.
That really didn't sound good. Hold on. Whoa! Hey, you!
Yeah, we can't say the name of them, but yes, there's a lot of variations of them, but you can have them with chocolate chip cookies as a layer. You can have them with Reese cups as a layer, and brownies.
And
suddenly we're doing a baking show.
We do the cookie layer first and the brownie on top of it, right?
Yes.
So it's like you're baking the brownie inside the cookie.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so good.
Yes.
All right, right on that.
All right, so we're going to take one last little faux commercial break here.
And now a word from our fake sponsors. But we'd really love if they were our real sponsors. Seriously, we would love it.
Oh, brother, I tell you, I've been having such a hard time getting up in the morning. I don't know, the energy's not there. I'm getting old. The bones are creaking. The muscles are feeling tight.
Yeah,
I just don't know what to do anymore to get myself, just charge my batteries every day.
Well, did you ever think about trying yoga?
Oh, come on, man. You got to be kidding me. Yoga, Nick. What kind of man does yoga?
I'll tell you what kind of man does yoga. Every kind of man does yoga. In fact, the man does yoga. That's DDP Yoga. Diamond Dallas Page, the master of the diamond cutter, has come up with a unique and revolutionary system of yoga that is dynamic, that gets the blood flowing. It's not static. This isn't your mom's yoga. This is big-time yoga. Now, DDP, this man, former WCW World Heavyweight Champion, he didn't become a pro wrestler until he was 35 years old. How did he keep his body fit? He's almost 60 years old now. How is he still a model of precision from a physical specimen? You've got to get DDP Yoga. John, you got to give it a shot. DDP Yoga. Feel the bang!
That might be the greatest commercial spot in the history of podcasts, Nick. I have to say, your enthusiasm for DDP Yoga, much the same as your enthusiasm for Superman, for Rocky, for several other things that I'm sure will come to light over the course of our podcast. Just an outstanding job by you, top notch.
I'm just going to put it out there. More than anything, I know you want to get Todd Whitaker on this podcast. I want to get DDP following us, and I want Diamond Dallas Page on our podcast. That's my goal, and we'll let our listeners know. My side job for many, many years was professional wrestling. So my biggest passion, aside from being in education, is professional wrestling. So I've had a great career, loved every minute of it, and I'm really inspired by what, in all seriousness, what DDP's doing. And it'd really be nice to sit down and talk with him. I think what he's doing in his life right now is relevant to what we do in the principalship.
I can't wait to hear how you would make that connection between what DDP is doing and what we're doing in the principalship. But yeah, if anybody is following us on Twitter, you'll see that we are also following several folks in the wrestling world. Again, that has a lot to do with what Nick has done in his prior life. Maybe someday we'll talk about the time where you actually wrestled for your school as a fundraiser. You did some professional wrestling, an exhibition of professional wrestling in order to raise some money for your school. Another great story that I'm sure folks will want to hear about. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes the very first premiere episode of Rockstar Principals Podcast. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Take us out, Dr. Nick.
For the boss, Jon Ross, and the Doctor of Proctors, Nick Indeglio, we hope your week is full of twisted steel and school appeal.
Thank you. Good night.